Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. I'm Brian Doyle, and with me, I guess I can go back to saying, as always, I have my two co-hosts, Rob Rogers and Tim
That's right.
McNeil. Welcome,
Yep.
guys. Thanks for joining today.
It's
Good
great
to
to
see
be
you.
here, sir.
Yeah, we love seeing you 2 times in a row, Rob. That's not
right.
I know, it's weird.
Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Took a
But,
while. Took a while. Yeah.
But, as I always like to say, nobody's here to hear the three of us anyway. They want to hear from our guests, and we're excited to have Vince Tinnirello with us today. And he handles the business development for his organization, Anchor Networks Solutions. And I really appreciate him joining us today. Thanks, Vince. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Vince.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to see
Yeah,
you.
we
guys.
all saw each other last probably in person, at CompTIA.
Yep.
Yes, Channel Con.
Couple of nights in the lobby bar.
Yeah.
Spend any
Weird
time
how
at
that
any one of
happens.
those.
Yeah.
Well, Vince,
Took me a few days to recover after that event. Just not used to staying up late anymore. It's like, going to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and all of a sudden I'm up 3 nights in a row at a CompTIA event. I didn't have my game face on. I wasn't prepared for that.
Chicago has a way of doing that to you. It's weird. It's,
Yeah, I think Rob might still be recovering, quite honestly. So,
Yeah.
I think Chicago took him out a little more than Nashville did. But anyhow, we love to kick things off, Vince, with learning a little bit more about your backstory. It's always great to hear how people in our industry came to be in our industry, as it's niche within the technology sector. So, maybe give us a little of your backstory, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, happy to. We're a Colorado-based MSP. There's 30 of us. We are going to do about 6.2 million this year. Just hit our 20-year anniversary, August 17th. So that was kind of
Awesome.
cool.
Congratulations.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's pretty exciting. My background actually was in the hospitality industry. So nothing to do with IT, and spent 12 years with Marriott International in Tampa, Florida, and then in Vail, Colorado. And then went to work for the town of Vail as the director of sales for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And those were great careers. Hospitality taught me so much, right? I would say, in Israel, every teenager's got to serve in the military, right? At least every teenage boy. And I swear that I believe every kid needs to work in the hospitality industry to understand what it's like to serve people, and just really understand it at that basic level. So all through college, I made my spending money funds happen by working in restaurants, waiting tables. And then when I went into the hotel business, it was in group and convention sales. So I would have been the other guy. I would have been the guy on the other side of the fence, booking an event like an IT Nation, a DattoCon, a CompTIA ChannelCon. And it was fun. But in my mid 20s or late 20s, I guess I should say, I was kind of all right, what's next? I said late 20s, but actually it was right around 30. It's all right, what's next? This is fun, but what else? Am I going to do this for the rest of my life? And I started thinking well, what do I like to do for fun, and how do I get paid at it? And quickly realized that nobody was going to pay me to ski, mountain bike, or climb mountains. Not with any sustainability, right? And I was well, what else do I like? I like technology, and kind of found my way into IT and infrastructure, and went back to school for that simultaneously while I was working full time. Then made a career change and started working for really, I guess, what I would say is a white box builder in Denver that, they made their money selling computers, and service was kind of an annoying after fact for them, right? They did IBM AS400 stuff, and yes, they'd put in Windows servers, but they wanted to sell stuff. So started working for them, and I candidly was shocked at, I guess I didn't realize nerds had egos, and I didn't realize that nerds could be so condescending to people. And it was really clear to me that the expectation, businesses were working with small IT firms and just taking it, right? They needed the help. They didn't know how to they were kind of held hostage by their lack of knowledge.
Right.
And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. And how do we deliver, Marriott and Hyatt-like customer service in small business IT? Can we do that? And I needed a couple of shoulder surgeries, and this was about the time when you didn't have remote access, right? So at that point, my employer is like, well, what are we going to do with you while you're getting surgery and your arms pinned to your side for 8 weeks? And so I went back and actually taught some Windows classes at a community college, resigned from my position at that firm. And I had a handful of those businesses. They had my cell phone number from when they needed to contact me, call me up and say, what are you doing now? And it was then that I said, they asked me like, well, would you be interested in taking care of us? That I kind of started Anchor 20 years ago. And that's really the story. It grew from there. I knew, the next evolution, I'd say, grew from my wedding day, riding my road bike from Copper Mountain to Vail Pass, or the day before my wedding, and getting 2 phone calls and saying, hell no, I cannot be the man in the van. I can't be the doctor who's on call. I'm going to have to, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to find some employees. I can't be the on-call guy. And so fast forward to today, and yeah, there are 30 of us, and it's grown into something that's really a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
How's that for a story?
Hey, it's
fantastic.
always just so flattering if somebody calls you up and says, hey, I remember you from this other place. Let's do business. That's just and then that's how you started it up, right? That's just a great story. That's very flattering.
Yeah, and
I can't take credit for it because it wasn't really, I kind of had an idea maybe, but I had a couple of folks say, you should do this. You could get somewhere with it just by being nice to people.
Yeah.
By being able to talk to them.
Yeah, weird. It's so weird.
No, I wanted to touch upon something that you brought up too, about the fact that everybody should work a little bit of time in hospitality. And I totally agree with that, only because it does a few different things that translates to the service business that we all, operate within. One, it teaches you patience, right? You've got a lot of different personalities that cross those thresholds, especially when you're waiting tables. And you've got to learn how to, A, be patient, B, listen, right? Because the worst thing you can do is get their customized order wrong. It's gonna cost your wallet as well. And 3, it really shows if you go above and beyond with some of your customers, you're gonna get that bigger tip. You're gonna get the more business. Those things just were, at least from my days in hospitality, 3 things that I thought directly translated into what the service industry is just all about.
Yeah, the patience thing. So I did a session at IT Nation years ago that was. First, I did it at CompTIA, and then I did it at IT Nation. That was customer service the Marriott way. And on one slide I had, let me give you some complaints that I've heard over the years and see if you can translate this to IT. Like, my coffee is cold. My steak isn't done enough. My steak is too well done. Why is my room near the elevator? Why don't you have a room available on a high floor, right? Like, why is the pool only open until 10 p.m.? Right, you can take things and you can translate that almost to anything in IT. If you think about the kinds of complaints that your service team will receive, why don't you do this? Why didn't you call back faster? Why wasn't this urgent priority? Right, so it really taught. Marriott had a philosophy that I think has changed, but it was the customer is always right. A bellman, a housekeeper, anybody could comp a room. Anybody. I think we've evolved since, unfortunately, society has evolved to where that, I can't speak for them now, but I don't think that philosophy exists there anymore. And I know I started us out that way at Anchor, but it's not the case anymore. The customer isn't always right, and they don't get to be a jerk, right? We're going to be professional. We're going to work together, but you must be respectful to our team and be professional. And I think that from what I've seen, the hospitality industry has changed too. People are no longer doormats.
Right.
I mean, we've seen it during pandemic. They have a hard enough time keeping people working. The last thing you want to do is, make someone in the hospitality industry melt down and walk out the door. So
Right.
I think it
That was the
also
foundation of the company.
I think some of that had to change too when you think about the impact of social, right? Because there was that period of time when like Twitter first came on the scene, and the idle threat always was, you don't want me to tweet out to all my followers what's going on here. So people started taking advantage of that system as well, and really pushing for the free comps wherever they could by using these social
Right.
vehicles. And I think it forced the service industry to have to change a little bit. And it's kind of a shame, right? Because it was quaint. It was large organization, but it still had a quaint feel to it. And now it's definitely become much more mechanical because everybody's just jaded.
Right?
Here's my blunt statement.
Hey, I don't use mobile check-in. Like, there's something about talking to a front desk clerk.
Yes.
You might find out a great restaurant to go to. You might find out some
Right.
activity you didn't know, right?
Right. I totally agree.
But I also think, translating it over, there is an element of the customer is always right. I mean, look, the customer isn't always right? When it comes to, you look at all the MSPs out there that are flirting or are all in on the MSSP side, the customer isn't always right. And you need to make them aware of that as well. So that's where there is some give and take there, I think. But if you do it in the right way, you want to align yourself with the right people too. So if you align yourself with the right people, you're going to have those people that have the same mindset as you.
Agreed.
That's something that has been sprung forward a little bit more so since COVID hit.
Vince, I'd like to jump in here. So you said 20 years, you're pushing 6.2 million this year, right? I got that correct. What was some of the big jumps that you made, or something that you can help the struggling MSP out there that's trying to break that 2.5 million ceiling, which a lot of people struggle at right there? Do you have something that, like, this was one of the things that helped me break through that ceiling?
EOS. I'll come back to that. So for the MSP in that revenue range, full disclosure, at one point I was chair of the managed services community at CompTIA. And one of the reasons why I started to get involved in the thought leadership stuff was I used to sit in the audience at all conferences, Autotask, IT Nation, CompTIA, and think, why am I watching these experts up on stage, and why do we suck so bad and they're so great? Then I realized that everybody is struggling with the same stuff. Yeah. Nobody is awesome. Yeah. And the question, almost Steve Alexander said to me once, these ideas are great, but you actually do what you're professing is the right thing to do. And you find out that more often than not, MSPs have this idea. And it's easy to sit on stage and pontificate about all the things you should do. And the first thing I would say to MSPs that are struggling a little bit is, you don't need to apologize to anybody for taking C-level customers. We've all done it. And if anyone tells you they haven't, they're lying. To get from here to there, you have to sometimes take business that isn't awesome, but you're building your base. And then when you get to that point, you start replacing them. We have a client termination list right now of like 8 clients that we have targeted. Like, we are replacing them. And as soon as we get one, we terminate one, get another one, we terminate. But I just wanted to say that because at that revenue point, I think it's an all hands on deck. And sometimes you have to, maybe you don't want T&M business, but it's filling holes. Mm-hmm. So I think, one, I don't want MSPs to sit there and say, gosh, I got to do all these things perfect. You don't. Sometimes you're figuring it out as you go. But to answer your question directly, the biggest catalyst was when we were a little bit beyond that revenue, but it was EOS. In my own peer group, I'm in an MSP Ignite peer group. I would say that we were in the 3 million plus, and we're talking like 2019. But I felt like we were just swimming, right? We're just constantly fighting the same fight over and over. And, even some of our team members said, we got to do something because we keep getting the same results over and over. And I know you guys are an EOS shop, and I would say my peer groups suggested EOS, and it has made all the difference for culture and structure and vision, hands down. And that is what's propelled us forward. And through that, revenue wise, it's taking the right clients, making a client assessment chart, getting the right clients, and then also adding security services and being specific, because we always just say, oh, security. a tools-based monthly fee service that is above foundational security of antivirus and firewall.
Sure.
So, I mean, we're requiring it at every client site. And it's brought, a ton of extra revenue to our bottom line. That's what's propelled us forward, is adding security services and cloud, of course.
So Vince, when you say client assessment, do you mean client grading, like a top grading assessment, or do you mean net detective and that kind of stuff? Like which one are you talking?
I mean the Mike McAllowitz pumpkin plan.
Pumpkin plan.
Like writing, I was supposed to, the year in 2020, I was supposed to do a session on, I know you guys were doing ASCII stuff, for ASCII on client assessment chart and a client advisory board. And then I got sick with COVID and couldn't do any of the sessions. But we have an actual client assessment chart where they get a grade letter. It's based on a numerical formula, but it in revenue is the least important. It is, do we cringe when you call?
Oh,
do you give slip ups? Do you engage with us? Do you pay on time? Do you take our advice? And so we rank clients that way, and it kind of gives us a target of, do they get it? That's even actually very straightforward criteria. Do they get it? If they don't get it, then they're not going to last here very long. So yeah, we evaluate all clients that way.
So you're basically taking the pumpkin plans, client grading system is like verbatim. Is that what
Not
you
verbatim.
do? Okay.
No, we made it our own.
Making it to make your own.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the concept that he
The
had.
concept.
Right.
I will say I really like the pumpkin plan, and that, because we've seen that as well, and we like that thing as well. We made it our own too, but boy, is that thing a good empirical system to like really help you understand and take the the gray area out of it. We like it as well.
Oh, we included it in sales maturity.
Yep.
Yeah. I especially like the idea of not putting a huge focus on the revenue standpoint. I think too many people do, right? They focus so much on how much revenue is coming in per client. Really, you should be seeing, are they the right fit for you?
Do they give referrals? Right. Yeah, all the stuff.
Do they embrace IT and execute? Do they follow your tech standards? I mean, there's so many different criteria you can look at that go beyond just pure revenue. And, I always look at those plans as also, when you start getting to the size where you're at, it's making sure you're not overlooking those customers in the middle of your stack that are ready to be risen up as well. You put that security stack out. Who are those customers I can maybe just make a phone call to and not even have to quote to get it added to the contract, versus the ones that I'm going to have to go through a full-on sales process. Yeah,
I mean, we don't, and our client success team, we're very clear with our customers that they're not there to sell you anything. They're there to, help you build a business roadmap or a technology roadmap that aligns with the goals of the business. Some other things that maybe propelled us that I would say, okay, for an MSP, strong vendor relationships early on and transparency. So I aligned with the folks at Autotask and Datto and some other vendors. They knew where we were headed. They knew our numbers. We asked for help at times. It was a two-way street, right? And I always preach that to MSPs, like, don't stand there with your hand out, like you got to give. And we, in life, we say, never give to get, just give to give. Well, in business, in this scenario, like, I'd do anything Autotask asked, and I knew they would do the same for me. I didn't have to, they would just take care of, like, and that propelled us forward. Dan Wensley, when he was at Level Platforms, helped propel our business forward. I can point to a handful of vendor partners that help propel us forward. Getting involved in thought leadership and CompTIA, that propelled us forward. And then the biggest thing that now I facilitate a peer group, and I'm in one as well, is managing cost. And I don't mean being a cheapskate, but you got to run lean and mean when you're trying to get over the hump. And there's a lot of nice to haves and versus must haves. And I see a lot of P&Ls, and there is a lot of fluff and MSP tool bloat as an example, where it's like, good gracious, you've got all these bells and whistles, but you make no money. And not just about tools. It could be, wrapping your vehicles and having company vehicles and a fancy office, whatever it may be. You've got to run lean and mean and always focus on the bottom line. The excuses I always hear when people aren't making money is, oh, I'm reinvesting into business. And then I always raise my hand. I'm like, so at what point do you get to make money? What point do you stop reinvesting and say it's time to make some money? And I just, would advise any MSP that's right at that threshold, like just keep an eye on your expenses. They can get away from you. And I don't mean around people, I mean around everything else. People, it is what it is right now, right?
Mm-hmm. I want to take a step back, and there's something you said before. You've got your client list that it's almost your cut list, right? I'm curious to see how your employees react when you go through that cut list. Like, for instance, we know somebody very well who owned an MSP in New York City area, and they literally used to get a cake. And it was, they would have a party the day that they separated from a client. So I'm curious to see how you go about that and what the reaction is.
We fired our largest client twice, two different clients twice. One of them we took a survey on and like, hey, what are the top 3 clients that you find challenging to work with? And then we already kind of knew, but then we surprised the staff by terminating that client at year's end. I think we try to walk a fine line with that and not let anyone know until it's happened, because we'll get jaded talking.
Yes.
But I think the reaction has always been positive and just shows them that it's not always about money. If we're willing to fire a $22,000 a month client and say, that's fine, we'll figure it out later, revenue wise, that shows them something. Or then a $13,000 client who was ridiculously profitable and everyone knew it, but everyone hated it. It just set the tone for the team. And we didn't throw a party or anything, but the staff said, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
No, that's great.
That's critical though, because you need your staff to be happy, especially in today's marketplace where there's so many options out there. And staff retention has got to be on people's minds. And one of the easiest way to turn off your staff is really not having their backs.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I know we're getting near the end of our time. Vince, anything else that you think that was important to you as you were making your, trajectory with your business that you want to discuss today?
I think I should have told my background story in 5 minutes less time. I guess I would just say that I used to be a guy who used to think culture and core values was big company stuff, and EOS has really taught the importance of that, and it's shown in the company culture we have now. Not saying it's perfect. We're struggling with getting people to come back to our office, which we would really like, but just focus on hiring the right people, the right seat, right? Focus on your values. Make sure that your employees and your clients align with those values, or it's going to be a short relationship in both cases, right? That's really been the last 5 years takeaway for me, is how important those things are. Things I used to think were dumb. Turns out they're not. Turns out
there's something to be said for it. So
turns out they're kind of important.
No, but I bet you it's probably one of the last things almost every business implements into their process is actually concerning themselves about what their company culture is and looking at what that really means to the marketplace. And it probably should be one of the first things we look at, but it's it's a tightrope, right? And at every stage of building a business, there's a new challenge you're facing, right? As you're new, it's simply acquisition. As you move into the mid-tier, it's about how to optimize how you deliver whatever it might be that you're delivering so you can become more profitable. Then it goes into that phase about, how do we right size our relationships, what you were talking about, top grading. And then ultimately, unfortunately, at that stage of that, it becomes, well, now how come we're losing people? Let's get to the culture, right? And we should probably accelerate that somewhere to the top.
Yep, totally
You
agree.
got it.
Well, I appreciate you fellas being on here today. Vince, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you on.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked, Vince, in this episode is you gave permission to people who are at that 2.5, that $2 million range it's okay to have a C client. right?
Yeah.
You don't have to hide them anymore, right? When your neighbors come over, right? You get to have those clients and use them to help build you up so you can get past that glass ceiling, right?
Yep.
Of that, because that's a real struggle for MSPs getting past that $2 to $2.5 million mark, and giving permission to take a client. I mean, clearly they have to be good people, right? And they have to be good fits, but sometimes they don't have all the things that you're looking for, but they have enough of them to, help propel you forward.
You
So
go
that
to,
was
well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was say you go to a conference and you come back and it's all this finger wagging. If you don't do this, your business is
Yes.
screwed. If you don't do this, and you come back and you're like, oh my gosh. Right. I just don't want people to think that, like, just, it's okay. You can have a few C clients as you grow your business. Just have a plan for replacing them down the road.
Yep. And peer groups and EOS.
Yeah.
Got to be in a peer group. Our peer, I say this frequently and purposely as much as I possibly can. My peer group is gotten Anchor where it is. Could not have gotten there on our own. We're not geniuses. I don't have these genius ideas. That peer group has propelled Anchor forward, and I'm so grateful to them.
Okay. All right. All right. For anyone that is looking to get in touch with Vince, we will be including his LinkedIn profile with the podcast. Also, this episode will be up on MSP Business School or anywhere that you get your podcast out there. Vince, Tim, Brian, I appreciate you guys. It was a great episode, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate it.
Good having you on, Vince.
Take care.